Hey folks, in a minute here, I'm going to show you how to use a couple of tennis balls and some other simple tools to get some immediate short-term relief from back pain. Basically, what we're going to be doing is applying pressure into the dense and sensitive muscle knots in order to get them to relax and improve our range of motion. But the technique is a little more nuanced than just rolling up and down as hard as you can. First, we're going to do some mobility work to test our range of motion, establish our starting point. Next, we're going to do some palpation to feel the muscle structure, to get a sense of where to work. I'll be showing you how to find the muscles we're working on, and we're also trying to notice any particularly dense or sensitive areas. While we're applying pressure, working on the muscles, we are scanning through them, going slowly, going deliberately, looking for areas that feel intense and at the same time that kind of hurt so good satisfaction. I will be showing you how to fine-tune the work by making some slight changes in your posture. Just know that you don't have to do all of the modifications to get the full benefit. Once you find the spot that's really working for you, just go ahead and stick with that. A couple of notes before we jump into it. The breath is very important for relaxing the muscles. Through the whole series, breathe in and out through the nose, deep, smooth, even breathing. Complete each exhale all the way to the bottom of your lungs and inhale deep into your abdomen. The work we're doing can feel intense, but the breath will help. It should never feel more intense than like a 7 out of 10. A good rule of thumb is to stop and pause when you find a point that feels like it's a 7 out of 10. Work with it, breathe until it relaxes down to like a 4 out of 10. To which, totally fine to go at your own pace. Everyone is going to have different spots that require more time and love, so I've structured this tutorial to be paused, to give you time to work each muscle group on your own. Take as long as you need. So, what are we going to need? Like I mentioned, you'll need 2 massage balls. I'm using tennis balls, but lacrosse balls work well, as do dedicated massage balls. You'll need a sock or some other kind of small bag to tie them in. I'm using yoga blocks, but a stack of books or boxes will work just as well too. And a chair, ideally something with a relatively firm seat. All right, so if you have your props, then let's get started. We're going to begin on our hands and knees for some mobility work. Set your knees underneath your hips, your palms underneath your shoulders. If you have sensitive knees, then a rolled up blanket or some cushions will help. Inhaling, roll the hips forward, lift your chest up, look up into cow pose. And exhale, round the spine and push into your hands. No need to work too hard or push, just explore the movement. Take note of how you feel, your mobility, your level of stiffness, and exhale, round the spine. And last one, inhale, roll the hips forward, lift your chest up, and exhale, round through the spine. Come back through center, and look into the side body. Drop the hips to the side, look over the top of the opposite shoulder as you exhale, and come back through center, inhaling. Again, same thing, other way. Drop the hips to the side, look over the opposite shoulder, and come back through center. Exhale, bend to the side. Inhale, back through center. Exhale, side bend. And inhale, one more time, each side. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And inhale, come back through center. Set one hand underneath your chest. Take the opposite hand behind your neck. Explore rotation through the spine. Lift your chest up towards the side. Pull your elbow back. Come as far into rotation as you comfortably can. And then all the way back down. 2 more times like that. Rotate. And exhale, release. One more time, take note how far comfortably you can rotate in the beginning, and exhale, come all the way back down, change sides. Rotate on the exhale. Come back through center on the inhale. And one more time. And release both hands back down to the ground. Set your palms under your shoulders again and look into hip mobility. Lift your leg up. Make a big circle with the knee, around and back down. Two more like that, exploring the mobility, the space you have available at the beginning for the hips. And one more time, inhale up, around, and exhale back down, change sides. Inhale up, around, and down, and again up, around, and back down. Okay, go ahead and grab your props and we will begin on our side. We're looking at the quadratus lumborum and the erectors. These are muscles on the back. To find them, lie down on your side. Place your hand between the top of the hip and the bottom of the ribs. Work your fingers around back and feel for the muscles on either side of the spine. If you find the bony landmarks of the spine, the muscles on either side, the erectors going up, and the quadratus lumborum between the bottom of the ribs and the top of the hips. Take a moment to feel anything that pops out, spaces that feel particularly tight, getting a sense of where you might begin to work. Once you have an idea, roll down onto your back. Take the balls together, tied into a sock, and place them at the bottom of the spine, just above the top of the hips. Beginning to scan the muscles, one spot at a time, noticing anything that feels particularly interesting, tight, sensitive, tense. Once you feel like you have something that is interesting, that's popping out at you, we're going to begin fine-tuning our efforts. Find something that feels like it's worth working on. Bend your knees. And begin to drop your knees slowly to the side. Notice how rotation, movement through the hips begins to change pressure into the massage balls. Try both sides. If moving your legs back and forth finds a spot that's a eureka point, it's like, ah, yeah, that's it. Pause, stay there, continue to breathe. Otherwise, you might try pulling one knee in towards your chest, placing the foot on the top of the opposite knee, increasing flexion through the hips, or otherwise straightening the leg out, decreasing flexion through the hips. Try both of these on both sides. Once you find a place to work, pause, stay there, breathe until it goes from a 7 out of 10 closer to about a 4 out of 10. Go ahead, pause here, spend as much time as you need working on the low back, and then we'll move on. Next, we're going to be looking at the psoas. You'll need one ball and a block or a stack of books or a stack of whatever you have. This is a difficult muscle to feel directly, but it's inside of the hips. If you find the bony landmark at the front of the hips, we're working just inside of the front of the hips, sending the ball in towards the inner rim of the pelvis. To do that, set the ball on top of the block and lie yourself down with the ball just inside the front bony landmark at the front of the hips. This might take a couple of tries to get it right. We're not setting it into the stomach, we're setting it into the muscles of the pelvis. So it might be lower than you're anticipating. Once you have the muscle in place, the ball in place, set that knee, that leg, point the toes out into a kind of a frog pose, and sit down and rest and breathe. Take about 5 even deep breaths, focusing on exhales, really letting the ball sink in before you decide that you need to move into a new position. There's not a lot of fine-tuning to do here. Once you have the ball in place, rest, hold, breathe. If it feels particularly intense, you might rest a little bit longer, try multiple times. Once you've given your psoas all of the love and attention you need on both sides, go ahead, pause, take your time, and we'll move on to the next muscle group. We're looking at the glutes and the piriformis next. You'll only need one massage ball here. Lie down on your side. The glutes are not particularly difficult to find. They're the big muscle on the back of the hips, but the piriformis is between the outside of the thigh. If you move your leg up and down, you'll feel the bony landmark on the outside of the thigh move under your hand, and the sacrum. That's the bone between the two cheeks of the glutes. Coming into the piriformis, we want to come in at an oblique angle, so behind that bony landmark, in towards the tailbone. To begin working on the glutes, sit yourself up and set the ball at the back of the hips, lower down onto your elbows, and lift your hips up and over onto the ball. Begin scanning one space at a time. If this feels intense, perfectly fine, pause and stay there. If not, continue moving laterally, lower, exploring the full length of the glutes until you find the spot that feels like, okay, that's it. Once you find something that's interesting, begin to fine-tune by taking your knee of the side that the ball is on and lowering it down slowly towards the floor. And then extending your legs slightly and doing the same thing. So repeat this, fine-tuning until you find the spot, the eureka spot, and then pause and stay there. Straighten the knee. Open the leg, exploring full range of motion through the glutes. Find something that feels like the 7 out of 10 that you're looking for. Breathe, pause, wait. If it's not quite reducing to a 4 out of 10, you might try pushing your knee down into the ground, feeling the glutes engage, pushing the glutes into the ball, and then relaxing again, letting the ball sink a little bit deeper. This kind of engagement, relaxation can help release a little bit more tension through the hips. Once you've worked the whole length of the glutes, lie down onto your back. Cross your ankle over the top of the knee, and we'll begin looking at the piriformis. Begin by rolling towards the direction of the foot and set the ball at that bony landmark on the outside of the thigh. And then roll back towards the ball. Continue rolling until you're lifting your hips up and over the top of the ball. Exploring the full length of the piriformis. Roll back. Slide the ball slightly closer towards the sacrum, and then roll again back towards the ball until you find a spot that feels interesting. Once you find something that's jumping out at you, fine tune by beginning to push your knee away from your chest, or by unbending the opposite knee and then pushing your knee away from towards the chest. Take as long as you need, working on both sides of the glutes and the piriformis. Pause here, and then we'll move on to the next muscle group. We're looking at the abductors, the muscles on the lateral side of the hips. You'll need just one massage ball. To find them, come lie down on your side. Bring your hand to the outside of the hips. Lift your leg up, feel the muscles between the top of the hip and the top of the thigh. Begin to engage. These are glute medius and tensa fascia lata. When the leg is out in front of you and you lift your leg up, you're feeling more tensa fascia lata. When the leg is out back behind you and you lift the leg up, you're feeling more glute medius. So take a moment, find these muscles, and then we will begin to work on them by setting the ball underneath the hips and lying down on top of it. Take some time, explore, look for places that jump out at you. It might be more tensa fascia lata. Bring the leg out in front. Roll the chest down towards the floor. It might be more gluteus medius. Take the leg out back behind your hips and roll the chest and hips up towards the ceiling. So play around, rolling the chest and hips down towards the floor with the leg out in front, rolling the chest and hips up towards the ceiling with the leg out back behind you, finding something that feels interesting. Once you have it fine-tuned, try to push the foot down into the ground. Feel the muscles engage, push into the ball, and then relax, let them sink back down. Take as much time as you need, working through the muscles on the side of the pelvis. When you're done, move on to the next muscle group. We're looking at the adductors, the muscles of the inner thigh. You'll need 2 balls inside of your sock and a stack of blocks or books or whatever you have. To find the muscles, come lie down on your back. Keep one knee bent, bring your hand to the inside of the knee and begin to open your knee up to the side. You're feeling for the line of tension going from the pelvis all the way down the inside of the leg. Shouldn't be difficult to find. Most people feel particularly tense down the inner thigh. Once you have an idea of where you're going to be working, roll onto your side and set your blocks up in front of your hips. You're going to set the balls on the blocks so that you can cross your thigh with the balls perpendicular to the length of your leg. Begin with the balls as close in towards your pelvis as you can. And we're going to begin exploring the whole length of the inner thigh. So, one spot at a time. Move the balls slightly down the leg. Feel again. Keep going all the way down the length of the leg until you find something interesting. Once you find something that feels like it's worth fine-tuning, begin to turn your hips and your pelvis and your chest towards the floor. So your hips will be opening slightly. Also begin to straighten the knee. And play around with rotation through the leg. Point the toes down towards the ground. Point the toes up towards the ceiling until you find that eureka spot, that's the aha moment. Pause and hold there. If you're not quite feeling something with the leg out in front of the hips, you might work with the leg slightly lower, bringing the hip into slightly less flexion. So play around both sides of the adductors, left and right side. Take as much time as you need working through the muscles, and then we'll move on to our next group. Going to be looking at quadriceps and the IT band. You'll need 2 balls inside of the sock. Not difficult muscles or structures defined, but worth spending time to feel your way through just to get a sense of where you're going to be working. So feel for anything that jumps out at you on the top of the thigh and get a sense of where exactly the IT band is, the long band of tissue running along the outside of your thigh. Once you have an idea of where you're going to be working, turn around, face down, and we're going to begin with the balls at the top of the thigh. Lie face down. Sink your weight into the tennis balls. And we're scanning through bit by bit, not rolling up and down, but being very deliberate and careful about where we put the balls, looking for anything that feels moderately interesting. Once you find something that feels like it's worth working on, pause for a moment, fine tune, bend your knee, increasing tension through the quadricep by extending it. Try rotating through the thigh, windshield wipering the foot, left and right, seeing how that changes the angle of approach on the muscle. You can also increase the tension by lifting your chest up onto your elbows. Once you find something that feels like an aha, 7 out of 10, pause, stay there, even full deep breathing. Wait for the intensity to reduce to about a 4 out of 10. And continue scanning down the rest of the muscles. Fine-tune by bending the knee, rotating through the thigh, and extending up onto the elbows. Work down the full length of the quadricep and turn around onto your back. Set the balls on the outside of your thigh, just at the IT band, and we're going to apply pressure by rolling our whole body, including the leg, towards the balls. Bend the opposite knee and roll the hips, the pelvis, towards the balls, applying pressure only as far as is comfortably bearable. Again, we're scanning down the length of the whole IT band, looking for something that feels more interesting. Once you find something that feels more interesting than the rest of the muscles, more tense, more sensitive, then fine-tune by trying to bend that knee. Take as much time as you need working on the quadriceps and the IT band. When you're done, we'll work on the rest of the muscle groups. We're looking at the hamstrings. You'll need 2 balls inside of your sock as well as a chair. To get a sense of where the hamstrings are, they attach all of the way to the sitting bone and down the length of the back of the leg to the other side of the knee. So feel the whole back of the thigh. Notice anything that jumps out at you. When you have an idea of where to begin working, set your balls on the very edge of the chair and sit yourself beginning at the sitting bones. Sit your sitting bones just behind the ball and begin applying pressure to the hamstrings. We're scanning down the length of the hamstrings very diligently, deliberately, carefully, one space at a time. Work down the whole length of the hamstrings. When you find something that feels like it's worth jumping out at you, that's worth working on, pause for a moment and rotate the hips forward by trying to scoot your tailbone back, getting a little bit more extension through the hamstrings. We're going to begin fine-tuning. Try moving your knee inward and outward working on more of the medial and lateral aspects of the hamstrings until you find something that feels more interesting. Maybe extend your leg, getting more full extension to the hamstring, or relaxing. Once you find something that is closer to a 7 out of 10, pause and breathe. Let your weight sink into it. You might even begin pushing your leg down into the balls by applying pressure through your arm. Pause and hold, even slow deep breathing. When the sensation is diminished to more of a 4 out of 10, sit back up and continue exploring the whole length of the hamstrings all the way down to the knee. Send the tailbone back, roll the knee in, roll the knee out, finding space that feels more interesting. Practice extending the knee and relaxing. Apply pressure by pushing down into your arms. Take your time, work down the full length of both hamstrings, and when you're done, we'll move on. All right, I hope that was helpful. You feel less stiff, more mobile. Let's see how we did and do our mobility drills one more time. Come onto your hands and knees. Set your knees underneath your hips, your palms underneath your shoulders. Begin to move into cat and cow. Roll the hips forward, lift the chest up. Inhale. Exhale, round the spine and push into the hands. Notice any changes in the quality of movement, sensation. Exhale, round the spine, cat pose. One more time, roll the hips forward, lift the chest up, cow pose. And exhale, round the spine. Come back to a neutral position. Explore the side body, drop the hips to the side, look over the opposite shoulder. Inhale, come back through center. Exhale, other side. And come back through center. Notice any changes between left and right. Exhale. And inhale. Again, other side. Exhale. And inhale one more time each side. Exhale, bend to the side. Inhale. Exhale, bend to the side. And come back through center. Take your hand down to the inner middle of your mat. One hand back behind the base of your neck. Lift up into a rotation. Notice any changes in how far you can comfortably rotate. Exhale, twist, open up. Inhale, back through center. One more time, twist. And exhale, back down. Change sides. And one more time, exhale, twist. And inhale all of the way back down. Set your hands back down to the ground. Check hip mobility. Lift your leg up, around, and down. 2 more times. Inhale up. Exhale, around, and down. 1 more. And back down. Check hip mobility on the other side. And back down. Finish up lying down on your back, resting in Shavasana. Close your eyes, release control of the breath. Feel your body sink gratefully down into the floor. Thank you as always for your hard work, dedication. Namaste.